AD mid lane trade.
Zyragon as well. And like you say, the AD mid laners both left up and open. It's possible you ban the Tristana here for WE if you want FoFo to take the Yone into the Corki. That's something we've seen a little more of as the split has gone on as a way to change up what's happening. But with FoFo being so good on the Tristana, I say leave them open and see if you could grab that for yourself. Rumble
Can also
has
go
also
for the
been through.
Can also maybe go towards the LeBlanc. That's the other champion which can come through and really change things. That Rumble, as you say, the way we draft right now is you get magic damage somewhere. It doesn't have to be in mid lane, though. So having the Rumble to put it in towards top lane can be flexed elsewhere around the map too. Changes things, and it will be that Tristana. Very high prior pick, locked in for WE.
Yeah, also the Leona is just so good. Mark's very good on these engaged supports, so just ticking boxes here for WE to start us off. One thing I will quickly mention, Tristana has been a priority mid lane pick in the meta. However, if there's any AD carry in the league that's likely to take Tristana, it is Abel. It's his first game with the team. Just keep your eyes on that pick. This could be a Yone angle still.
I was thinking, Abel, and his signature picks, it's stuff like Tristana or the Nymeara. There's a chance of that. Fingers crossed, there's a Leona in already. Maybe we get something towards that as well. On the other side, it really does feel like we're just picking S-tier champions across the board. With the Nautilus locked in for RNG, very unlikely for it to be the Rumble in that support. We have seen a few games with jungle, so it's still strictly a flex pick, but we are expecting all the same for it to go towards that top side for the time being. Wayward locks in that Cassandra. Wayward had a pretty good year, especially compared to 2023. I think Wayward in spring was a hell of a good top laner. Summer, again, continuing on a similar level of form, seeing if he can take it to that rookie top laner and Juice coming in for RNG.
Kind of surprised, honestly, to see no AP jungles locked in at this, especially on that third pick for WE. I feel like there was an angle for grabbing a priority AP jungler. RNG recognized that and ban away the Karthus. Perhaps you could ban away. I mean, there's stuff like the Maokai up and available. A lot of the AP junglers in terms of the carry junglers. Oh no, Maokai's banned as well. I don't know, what are we even going here? Ivan?
Do you like playing easy to play champions in jungle, Joe? Do you like easy junglers? Well, you're going to hate Nidalee, because that's still up, but there's a good chance they're coming in for Heng. You already have yourself, set it from the Leona, you have the Tristana pushing mid lane. I mean, Nidalee ban wouldn't be a miss here from RNG as the last one. They could just say, there's only like 2 or 3 good Nidalee players in the league, and they've done that. They say, people don't play Nidalee well, you only care about it if it's Kanavi or Tien. I reckon Heng maybe goes towards that one, or we could have just been leading you completely astray and we get something instead like the Sejuani.
Certainly sets up for these laners to get ahead of their opponents. You can have such an impact in the early game, just roaming between lanes, finding those early ganks, especially in a meta where there's a lot of junglers that don't like to get involved early on. Sejuani can find a niche there. Over to Huanfeng then, looking towards the Ezreal, very safe, and I feel like Ezreal's been rising in priority more recently.
It does feel just like a strong laning champion. If you're playing with a melee support, you survive in lanes, your melee support gets to roam. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense that the Ezreal is starting to get more priority. I was worried about the itemization because there's no really great third item now. You go for the Triforce Muramana, you don't get to go for the Essence Reaver anymore, and therefore you kind of end up slotting into like a Bloodthirster third item on the other side. And while we joked about the Nidalee for WE, it's actually going to go over to the side of Way on RNG, so they get themselves that very difficult to play jungler, but can have huge impact if you do pull that through. And we're waiting on that last pick for WE.
Yeah, I like the hover of Aphelios is fun because Abel's a big Aphelios player. However, playing Aphelios into 3 poke champions and a Rumble Equalizer does not sound like a very fun time. Abel goes for the Zeri instead alongside this Leona. So, lots of damage coming out from this composition with the Zeri and the Tristana, but that really is all of the damage. No magic damage to speak of.
However, on the other side, how are you going to stop them doing damage when you have one piece of CC, which is your Nautilus? You can catch one of these carries, and even then you have to get through the triple tank front line of WE to get to them. I think RNG have a lot of damage if they can get it in the right place, but it's really hard to set up for it. I think it's really hard to set up for their Nidalee as well. I think Wei is going to have to perform very well on this champion to shut down Heng on that Sejuani, and I think as it comes later into the game, that Nautilus has got to get huge value because you've got very mobile champions which do a lot of damage behind a beefy front line. It's not easy to shut down that damage.
certainly not. We'll see if they can get to those structured team fights, though. RNG, lots of damage, lots of ability to snowball this game, right? When you look at things like the Rumble, when you look at things like the Nidalee, these are picks that really can just take over a game if they get a bit of gold early. Plenty of potential for that one. But like you say, the front to back is absolutely gorgeous from the side of WE. And they have liked that kind of structured game plan. They've liked that style of play. We'll see if they can make it happen here against RNG. Abel's first game on the Rift with Team WE. He left OMG. Everyone was wondering what happened to him. Where did he go? We found him again. He's on WE now. And it's time to see if he can step up and outperform LP.
Why is there a camel? Why is there a camel, Joe? I was just looking at the skybook thinking, why is this thing up there? I was so jump scared by that. Does anyone know why that's there?
I don't know. Maybe there are camels in Xi'an.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll Google that. You talk about this early game.
Okay, right. Time to get over my momentary confusion, as we don't have any shenanigans with lane swaps or level 1s just yet. When you've got stuff like the Leona and the Nautilus, you do sometimes predict that. Coming through. Have you got an answer for me?
It's a big
thing.
thing.
Researched?
It's a big thing in Xi'an.
Is it?
It's the
Really?
Xi'an Silk Road. They had a lot of camels and
oh,
stuff.
that makes a lot of sense.
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, because I've literally just got a tertiary Google there, but if you're interested in camels, guys, go have a look.
I have an interesting piece of trivia about this. You know that there are two ways that most languages refer to tea, either as tea or chai or chow, something like that. The reason for that is any language which calls it chow went down the Silk Road, anywhere which went through tea went through shipping lanes instead. So that's the way that different languages
So
evolved
what
to
you're
say
saying
tea.
is chai tea was both, it went on the Silk Road for a bit and then got onto a boat.
And then, yes, you're just saying TT instead, which is a different team
within
the league.
In the LPL, named after a mobile phone company, actually, weirdly enough.
Oh.
That's hence Thunder Talk, right? Because you're talking through lightning down the cables. See, next level.
We have some fun naming. We have some very cool stories about team names coming through here. Obviously, Team W used to be Team World Elite. They were way back in the day when they were called that. It's changed. Sometimes I still refer to them as that because it was so iconic, but it's been a while since they've been called to that one. Way going with the red buff in mid lane, just poking him out. And that's the extent of what he's done so far in the early game. Needs to see if he can get on top of this Sejuani. Nidalee, not got the best setup in this game. Needs to stop pulling out the Sejuani to get value in early game.
I really like that play from Way, though. Moves into the mid lane, just chunks FoFo, guarantees the spear. And it sets up so FoFo now doesn't really want to be a part of an early fight, doesn't really want to be a part of anything. Hung on the blast cone, slides over, and he actually gets it! Beautifully played by Hung. Great use of the ward, and great use of the blast cone.
Oh, but that's so important there. But hang on. Hung didn't even use his smite. It was Way that ended up smiting it and losing it. So it's just a mistiming. Yeah, look at the cooldowns on the summoner spell. So the Sejuani, which is meant to be very afraid of the Nidalee in the early jungle clear, is going to be completely fine in terms of the camps taken. And once you get to those later levels, when you get to the point where you can get your ultimate and you can survive through the first 3 clears, you're getting to the point where you start threatening the Nidalee with something like the Leona and the Tristana jumping over a wall, so that is already not great news for RNG. This Nidalee is not an easy game to play this champion, and it's also not off to a good start.
And now Hung wants to impact the mid lane as well. Tangyuan uses that Valkyrie, will get out with his life. FoFo just trying to put that pressure on. Hung moving into the top side here. Remember, he's got smite and Wei doesn't, but Wei's just going to start the fight onto Hung. FoFo moving over. Wei can't overstep for this one. He's still going forwards, though. He'll secure that grab off the back of it.
Yeah, so it's not going to be the double scuttle all in on the bot side. Going to blow that cleanse.
Mark backs away. That will just be one summon to burn in the form of that cleanse. Mark lost a lot of HP for it, but looks like they might go for a reset anyway.
Yeah, you're looking towards that first kind of back of the game. Of course, Ezreal's happy to recall early and just get a tier. Sometimes one of the great things you can do with Ezreal is try and make sure you're backing on your better components compared to a more traditional crit AD carry or whatever you are against. used to be a lot more impactful because it used to be when people had to back the BF sword and 1300 gold. It was a real pain to get to that, so you could get a little bit better. Right here, Way's the one that smites. Look down on the summoner spells after this point. 601 HP. Heng gets away with it.
I can't believe that. That might be the unluckiest smite I've ever seen. Way literally got it to 601 HP before the smite. That is tragic.
That's really painful as well now. I mean, like, what do you say? Nidalee fails the buff. It fails the camp steal, and that sucks because if you start getting even in farm with your jungle opponent, again, it just gets really hard to play. I think with jungle assassins, I think it was Peter Dunn that I quote on this one. He says that those champions, they don't do less damage in late game. They don't fall off, quote unquote. They get harder to play, which effectively means the same thing because it's really hard to get that damage down. But it means that if you're in a difficult game like this and you're not, you know, Tien or Kadavi, it gets really hard to play out a champion like the Nidalee, especially compared to the Sejuani, which is about as plug and play as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, Sejuani pressing that R button doesn't become less useful at any stage, does it? Just locking someone up for your Leona to follow up on is a pretty easy game plan from the level 6 point all the way to level 18. As the supports now have decided their AD carries in the bot side just aren't good enough, so they're supporting their AD carries in the mid lane instead.
What's the thing? It's like, oh, Abel's the best AD carry in the league. He's not even the best AD carry on his team. FoFo is now going into the mid lane to be joined by Mark. I mean, you know, maybe this is the problem.
When Abel's playing his first game with this team to target him with the joke, but Huanfeng gonna have to flash it. Nice little bit of play from Heng, pressuring the dive and getting a summoner.
Yeah, maybe a little bit mean. We'll wait at least one game before we start making jokes at Abel 6. Turns out Abel is one of the greatest AD carries for his caliber within League 2. He's done some really good carrying in the past. I am hoping he can do the same for WE because at this point they've had a bit of a revolving door in the bot lane. They're looking again to play towards this quite heavily. Huanfeng knows that. He's backing off, but you know, they've been through what? Stay in Prince in spring, stay still in the organization, I believe, in the LDL, but then of course they bring in and out LP in summer as well, and they're going on to Abel at this point. So that's the fourth AD carry in the year so far, and that's a jump onto the jungler.
We said he can't afford to fall behind. This will put him behind. First blood for Heng.
The Nidalee is not working, folks. Who could have told us that one? The champion, really hard to play, and if you fall behind, it gets even worse. So WE, really good earlier advance for them. They did give up the grubs on the top side, but they've used that because Nidalee was on top side so heavily to go towards bot side, get a couple of ganks towards there, go towards the bot side jungle. They haven't even started the dragon. They just rather have Heng making plays and getting farm, and I think that's working out well for them.
It certainly is so far. Very nice job by WE. Great
he's going to hit level 6 off this. If he gets level 6, he can go for a dive.
They already
gets it off these Krogs.
Huanfeng doesn't have any summoners. They burnt them earlier on. The problem is they don't have a big wave. Ming is going to go and face check this one. He'll find the boar and its rider, for that matter, and they'll have to back away.
I almost wonder if it would have been worth smiting away that just to get a level 6 opportunity for a player, but maybe that would have been a bit of an overextension towards bot side, especially with Ming having Flash Ignite and having a couple of levels. Wait, towards this top side, you can see that Wayward has been eating the worst end of this matchup. You expect that. Rumble demolishes every lane in top lane right now. I think we see K'Sante into it just because he can survive and then out-teamfight at points, even if you lose that individual lane. So WE, they say, all right, gonna be down in CS anyway, whatever, let's go towards bot side, it's gonna take that dragon. They have really just had full bot side focus for the new AD carry.
I will say in the BLG series as well, Juice had to play the other side of this matchup against Bin, and I'm sure he's feeling much happier playing the Rumble side of this matchup against Wayward, getting to enjoy what this matchup offers for him. I mean, having the first pick for a player so fresh like Juice, get it? Fresh, yeah. It's good for RNG. It's good to see this guy set up for success, given a good matchup, given a champion that he can really show his stuff on.
I really hope he gets to play a Gangplank game at some point, just so we can make the orange juice. Just sometimes you sat there and you just need it. You need a cup of something fresh. Anyway,
I will say he's never played it in his career. So I wouldn't hold your breath just yet.
First time for anything. I'm sure he can pick it up. Definitely not a hard champion to play. Definitely not unique in that sense.
I will say, if we end up in Gangplank meta, You know, 369's been there before. That was one of the classics back when it was him and Zoom up in the top lane, JDG versus Top Esports back in like 2020. Gangplank was one of those champions that found its way to the top lane in a Renekton only meta. Gangplank was one of the answers. We haven't seen that champion
in so long, thinking about it. It's been a really long time since we've seen that. I think basically the problem is that Gangplank players and Gangplank teams accepted the fact that you're going to die probably twice in most early games, because Gangplank is just so infinitely diveable in the early game. Later on, of course, that becomes completely opposite, because he just puts down a ton of damage. But in the current meta, stuff like the Cassante is really valuable, and one of the reasons we see it so much is that even when you dive in, there's a good chance that he outplays you. That's one factor for it. But then also just later into the game, it doesn't stop his value. Same with Skarner, Cassante. Like, you can dive them all you want. We've seen 0-5 Skarners come away with MVP performances, and similar with Cassantes, just because of their 1-2 item team fight kind of power. I mean, you can understand why the undiveable champions become really important.
It's a tale as old as time, because it's kind of the same story we always told about Ornn as well. People would love to dive on Ornn, and sure, you get a couple of kills, but he still upgrades items. He still has massive engage for the late game team fights. RNG contesting the grubs here, and nicely done by them. That'll lead to 5 grubs, as it's been a very quiet early game. It's been all about these objectives, and RNG, 5 grubs in trade for 1 grub, and a Drake for WE so far.
Yeah, they've been really kind in giving us some time and space to talk about the etymology of tea, the language of that. Might speed up here, though. Tangyuan has flash. Is anyone going to teleport down towards him? Can he get out safely? I think he's okay with a Valkyrie. And, yeah, WE. So they give up those early grubs. They haven't been willing to fight so far. Once they get to, you know, Cull popped on FoFo, I think we might see the point where FoFo tries to go into side lanes. A bit harder to work with those side lanes now you've given over those 5 grubs, despite the fact that Tristana really likes to just take up one of those outer turrets and just kind of keep drilling them down for extra gold in the side lane. Have to see whether WE can kind of transition to that point of the game well before RNG get good value out of stuff like this, where Juice, with such a heavy winning lane, can just get a load of gold like this.
Yep. Just free money in the top lane off the back of those grubs. Juice is loving this matchup. As I don't think that was necessarily aimed for Abel, but we're just going to highlight the fact that it did not hit.
Oh, what a great start for WE, dodging skill shots across the map.
I will quickly mention, Abel has now hit Static Shiv. We've all seen this on Zeri before. This is the moment where you become a farming machine. I think Guma Yushi was on like 240 or 260 CS at the 20-minute mark or something crazy like that on Zeri in the last day or two. So we'll be keeping our eyes on Abel's CS numbers, because he's already almost on 140 at the 12.5-minute mark. Let's see how much he can skyrocket that now.
Yeah, and Shiv has been one of those items, of course, which has been changed so much. It's not a crit item anymore, but it gives so many stats, and a lot of the attack speed for Zeri as well ends up getting transferred back into AD because of her Q passive. Any excess attack speed beyond a certain point just gives her more damage, so it's a very, very valuable item despite it not giving you that straight crit. And Abel is going to be at a point where once you pop that ult and start getting those Shiv procs across the team, it's huge AoE damage. And that's going to be one of the things which RNG need to be very, very wary of. They do have a Nautilus ult for the Zeri, but if they use it on the Zeri, does that mean FoFo gets himself an extra chance to team fight his way through things as well? That's one of the big things we have to pay attention to. If RNG can shut down both carries at once, if they're in position to do damage.
I think that's one of the biggest things that surprised me in these item changes, right? Obviously, all the crit items changed at the start of this split, and one of the things that surprised me was the fact that you've got 25% crit per item now. I expected it to mean we get more IEs faster. I'm going to hold my thoughts on that one. Or am I? Wayward just gets underneath the tower. Are they going to commit to a dive here? Wayward should be able to just run away from this one. And that'll be the first tower going down. FoFo is trying to answer on the bottom side of the map. The Drake being taken by WE. Don't know if FoFo will be able to actually finish a tower. Mark, this is not your side of the map, buddy. Everyone else is over at Drake. What are we doing at red buff?
Dying, I think. So, RNG get themselves on the board. WE, they do trade towards the bot side for the Dragon and likely the tower as well. But RNG, have they been able to stick around top side long enough to go towards an inner turret? You can see that Ming is hanging around the back of the turret, stopping Wayward from going towards that. You could teleport in with FoFo if you wanted. He now potentially can do with the tower going down. The threat's now kind of away from this top side. They're not going to dive him. There's going to be some damage onto the inner turret, but not that much. So the grand total is, what, top lane out of turret and a kill to RNG, maybe a couple of jungle camps as well. And then on the other side of W, take Dragon, take turret, and that's it.
I would say honestly favors WE overall. The fact that they managed to get the Drake as well as the tower sets them up for 2 Drakes. It'll be a Mountain Soul this time, but RNG want to turn it into a Herald as well, if they can. Starting this one off, and it looks like, I mean, Heng is moving over. I don't think he'll be here in time to contest.
I don't think it's a great idea to be giving up Herald, but I suppose if they feel like they're not ready to fight until they get to, 2 items, that makes sense. If they think they can't win the fight, then that makes obviously a lot of sense. Especially with Mark kind of losing his flash, maybe that hurts him from getting onto the key targets. But now RNG, 5 grubs, Herald, they can maybe break open that mid lane tower. If they break open the mid lane tower, I think maybe they can just use the extra map and territory advantage that they have to approach objectives better. It will make things easier for them, which they need to happen, because again, they don't have the easiest composition to play in the world. They're waiting on Ming to do godlike hook engages to pick off targets. They found Mark isolated. That's good damage, which will follow up on that. Doing that in a team fight setting is much harder, and that will start with good setup. So, Herald, I think it should be used very powerfully in mid lane. If they take mid lane turret, I think then RNG get themselves a much better state in this game.
They could do with Mark helping them out by trying to contest red buff solo while they're taking, while they're sieging a tier 2 on the top side. That kind of thing definitely would help this composition out. No 2 ways about it. But we'll see. We'll see how that's going to go. Oh, flash from Heng, followed up by an ultimate. Juice flashes over the wall, but a TP being channeled. Equalizer is trying to turn the engage, but the whole gang is on the way. Blast Cone gets him over the wall. Abel flies into the action. Juice solo at HP, and finally will go down just about. Heng is low and Way trying to trade it. WE only get 1.
What are we fighting over, folks? I mean, we killed Juice, but how much is committed there? We've got 2 flashes, a couple of ults, a teleport coming in. Juice dies and loses that flash, but WE, they overcommit. Well, they commit towards a kill, but they're going to lose themselves a top lane in a turret, which is going to be 700 gold over to Tangyuan. Huanfeng gets away safely, but I feel like WE, they overcommit a little bit towards that bot side. That was a very, very out there play.
Which is surprising as well from WE. I feel like one of the big strengths at the start of this split was playing the map well, and yet bit of a whiff, just desperately trying to finish off that kill onto Juice. Bit of a sunk cost fallacy situation, right, where they'd already used so much they felt like they needed to finish that kill off. Herald in the mid lane doesn't quite lead to the tower going down. FoFo there to clear the wave. Let's take another look as Juice, he just wanted the crab, man.
He just wanted that tasty crab meat. Doesn't get it. Ends up losing his life for it too. But look how much is committed for this. Like, that's a ridiculous amount put in by WE. And a lot of what they commit is also time. We do see that, the top lane in the turret goes down over the side of Tangyuan too. Yes, I suppose Way blowing his flash is an extra added bonus for it, but, RNG, I don't think they walk away that unhappy that Juice goes down there because of the trade in turn.
But Heng defended his scuttle crab, and that is all that matters in the jungle. He also, I believe, took away that red buff as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Pour one out for Blabber.
Yeah, indeed. This was sort of like the Blabber play, except the entire gang was involved. And Juice, unfortunately, the recipient of the play. It's Wayward now trying to find a 1v1. And remember, the early laning phase sucks for the Cassante. Once you get a couple of items in, you can survive that burn, and suddenly things don't look so hot for the Rumble in the 1v1.
Yeah, you can definitely get some winning trades there coming out from the Cassante. I think this is one of the reasons why we've seen much more steel caps on the Rumble instead of stuff like the Magic Pen Boots, which used to be so it was the core item on Rumble. It doesn't matter what else you build. Leandries and the Pen Boots, that's all you need. Because you're against a lot of melee bruisers, you go for the steel caps and you just end up going more battle Rumble at points. Heck, we even saw Shanji go towards some Randuin's Rumble builds last split. And he is one of the masters of that champion, so you know what, I'm inclined to listen to him. Dragon coming up in the next few seconds. We do maybe have ourselves the first entrance into a bigger fight in this game. Reminder, RNG have 1 engage tool. They have to use it well because there are good mobile carries on the other side. WE's carries, though, do need to do a lot of damage.
I feel like the messier the fight gets, the more it favors RNG just having more carries. Wayward not that tanky just yet on the front line, and a lot of focus being thrown out by RNG. It's like an artillery barrage flying from the roster of RNG. WE trying to weather that storm for the time being.
It feels like it's just Battleship RNG, all of its main batteries pointed towards the enemy team. You've got spears, mystic shots, you've got the rockets coming through. Tangyuan's off to the side, just pushing out that mid lane, going to take the turret. And while this is happening, WE are still getting poked out in the 4v5.
Tangyuan doesn't commit to the tier 2 in the mid lane, returns to the potential play. Keep your eyes on Ming. That engage has to be crucial for RNG. Wayward still tanking. W's buffers the hook.
Mark.
And here we go onto the backline. Mark sets it up onto Juice. The rest of the team diving on board, but Juice survives. It's Heng to go down instead. They're trying to burst the Drake here. They don't have a smite in the play, which means Way can just move in and sweep it up. WE, they lose a death. They lose the Drake. Maybe lose more as RNG chase them out of the jungle. The poke continues to rain down as WE flee with their tails between their legs.
The range advantage really apparent within this fight. I thought with the Leona and the Sejuani, W would have no trouble finding an engage, but they wait so long to pull the trigger that the HP bars are really low, the carries aren't in position, and that means that over the course of this, mid lane outer turret falls, bot lane outer turret falls, dragon falls as well, and a kill goes over to RNG when they take that dragon. So this is a huge sweeping win for RNG. Mark comes in around the side and does catch, Juice, but he doesn't manage to catch anyone else in the solar flare. They manage to buy some extra space, and while FoFo are able to get some damage down, they're not at the point where they can run over the entirety of this fight after the initial salvo has been fired. And you're absolutely right, at the end of this one, there was no smite, because this is what he's gone down in the midst of it. WE have to run for the hills.
So they get away. I can't believe it's only 2-2 on the scoreboard right now.
Yeah.
Only 4 kills across what has been a fair amount of action. Huanfeng, Mark's hunting, but will be spotted out in the end, and Huanfeng will get that ward. Both carries here, but it's whether or not they can actually lock someone down. I was surprised how long Juice survived in the previous play. It felt like the lockdown hit, but the damage wasn't there.
Yeah, that's probably going to be something which worries WE, because if he gets himself now through to a Zhonya's and he can just tank up some of the engage, he uses the Zhonya's, maybe then WE gets to the point where they overcommit onto a target which survives longer than they should, and they end up getting put back into that range disadvantage if RNG can reset the fight or buy some extra space for their carries.
Can I ask a question?
Beyond that point, sure.
Why the hell did FoFo just TP bot?
Oh,
they were trying to set up a play, but
mid?
he flashed the W. Okay. Ming finds a knock-up onto Abel. That's all they'll find. W back away once again. 1v1 between Wayward and Juice on the bot side while we're looking up all of this in the mid lane. Wayward forced away. Juice, equalizer, burns him to a crisp. And Juice comes out on top.
Yeah, not looking so fresh right now, Wayward. He is the one which goes down in the counter matchup in a lot of ways. He picks the Kasansei into the Rumble, but it's not for the 1v1, and this is exactly why. The Rumble is so good at dealing with these bruises, and now Juice with a huge advantage. RNG with a huge advantage. Need to just try and close out this game. WE, I think they're really struggling.
I mean, there's no two ways about it. They are definitely really struggling. They're 5,000 gold down, and their win condition being these Drakes. I mean, it's going to be hard to fight against these Drakes because you're never going to have river control, and you're against a full range poke composition that you have to somehow walk through all of that damage to contend any of these objectives. Juice is having a fantastic game for himself up in the top side as well.
Yeah, and I feel like now WE, because they were out macroed so heavily in terms of the tower trades, they're currently 1 tower to 5. They gave up so many grubs that it makes it much easier for RNG to play around that. But, it feels like now WE, they're kind of just snatching and grabbing for plays. Wayward alone on this side lane after FoFo teleported bot there too. Maybe just hasn't got himself out of the mindset of him being on the strong side of the map. He's very much on the weak side beyond that. Juice just runs at him, just burns him down with a double mask stacking, Leandri's Riftmaker.
Yeah, I feel like Wayward was hunting for the all-out angle against that wall, but I think even if he gets him over that wall, I'm not sure he actually wins the 1v1 just yet. Nice ult from Heng. Way flashes from the solar flare and dodges the rest of the CC chain. So will survive, but again, flash for flash between the junglers, I don't know, it's not really worth that much.
No, it's not, because if they manage to kill the jungler there, then Baron's up. They go towards the Baron with the double AD carries, and there's no smite. Maybe you can flip over a Baron. Now you've just ended up having the flash for flash trade instead. I think WE, again, it feels like to me, I'm not going to call it panic or desperation. I don't think it's quite to that level just yet, but there are definitely tinges of them snatching and grabbing at these plays. These are not well thought out plays. This is not the disciplined WE that we've come to know from most of this group stage, and heck, most of spring as well. It's just been this era of WE have been disciplined. They play towards a game plan. I don't think they're doing that very well in this game. They've been out macroed, they've been out set up around objectives. I think RNG are playing much more calm. I think they're playing much more effectively. And now Dragon coming up in 30 seconds, we're going to see whether they can finally get themselves a good engage before the poke comes through.
Oh, Abel does get chunked by the spear.
That's the poke.
Yeah, that's not a bad amount of poke either. Heng trying to contend these brushes. FoFo moves up as well, but they're outnumbered here as TP comes out from Wayward to get onto the flank, but Abel chunked out here. Heal has to come on through, dodging from the rockets from Tangyuan, or trying to at very least. Tangyuan flashes, almost gets the kill. Abel sent packing, and that opens the Drake for RNG.
Yeah, the 80 carry might change.
TP.
FoFo, wait,
He's
bust
out.
the shot. He's out. They worm away from the Dragon. W choose not to contest the Dragon to try and catch Tangyuan, and they don't even get that. They lose the Dragon. They lose a flash on their AD carry. Yes, it is at the cost of Tangyuan blowing his own flash, but WE, they're now up against 2 Mountain Dragons, which is going to make it harder for them to reach the damage breakpoints that they need to win the team fight with the extra resist coming through on the other side. WE continue to show that they are not winning wherever they choose to contest.
And that is 2 plays in a row where if they can just finish that kill, it's Baron, right? If Tangyuan goes down there, there's a real angle for WE to brute force Baron, maybe force RNG into a fight. And the previous play where they tried to catch Way, if they finish that one off, maybe there's an angle to just brute force the Baron. They don't find either of those plays, and they find themselves instead treading water at a 4K deficit and now losing 2 Drakes in a row.
You know, we had a talk about Murphy's Law a little earlier in the day. Reminder, folks, the games today might not even solve our group entirely. If RNG take a game here, honestly they should do in the game state right now, but WE somehow win the series, that's yet to be decided. That means that it sets up for a very slim chance of, you know, maybe LGD take a game later while they go down in a 2-1. We end up with WE and LGD on exactly the same series and game score and head-to-head, which means we'll have to have a tiebreaker at a later date. RNG, I didn't think they had it in them, not gonna lie, but right now, game 1 is purely in their hands, going towards the Baron, trying to see if they can close it out.
Oh, trying to set up onto Heng. Dashes away, will be very tanky on that Sejuani, keeps himself safe, and RNG peel off the Baron. They're not confident to just commit blindly here. They do just want to try and find a pick, find a kill, and turn that into a Baron if they can.
WE continually poked out. FoFo caught.
FoFo forced to jump over the wall, will survive, but that was his flash gone as well. I will say this poke is just starting to get really obnoxious now because the spear's so long range, but also Huanfeng is getting to that point on Israel where the ult really does not have that long of a cooldown. You're just spamming your Qs out constantly, and the ult will chunk for like 400, 500 damage on different players. It's enough to buy you a lot of space.
Particularly with the damage requirement from FoFo and Abel. You know, they have a quota of damage they need to put out, which they're currently not meeting. That means they have to go for full damage items, the Infinity Edge, the Lord Doms on FoFo. They can't go towards Bloodthirsters. They can't have that sustain right now, which means if you get that poke, it's sticking. And it's not like you have the Jungle Soraka in the Nidalee to heal you up as well. The poke sticks.
Heng caught, but he's happy to be on the front line. Equalizer goes down. It doesn't really land. Mark, though, might just fall. There's no follow-up for WE. FoFo's on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and he's hit level 16, sure. Yeah, WE want to put him towards the side lane. He's teleporting in now to try and look if they can 4v5.
Better late than never, or is it? Time to find out. Wayward goes in on the front line, but he's just not tanky enough. Look at the damage coming out from RNG. WE consistently pushed away. Full retreat now. They've stopped the Baron. Can they survive the play? Tangyuan chasing for more. Way looking for a spear as FoFo desperately tries to get out of this one. Heng next on the chopping block as FoFo continuously chunk. The laser comes out. The blast go to safety. WE stop the Baron.
Finally, we see the one flaw of this comp from RNG. They don't have a great amount of engage. They got their first pick and they're chasing them down with nothing to chase down with. So WE, they do survive, and what that does mean is that they end up buying time for the revives to come through. So they end up getting everyone back out onto the map, and RNG can't end up going towards the Baron, so it is 1 kill and out. What this does mean is that WE get to survive to a point where Baron and the Dragon are up. Maybe they can make a play around both objectives and try and out macro for the first time this game. Mark and Heng, they're going straight into a target, but the core of this composition is when you are engaging, you need damage behind them. There was no damage coming in from it. WE massively overstep again.
WE looking a bit out of sorts. It has to be said, this is not feeling like the same team from the start of the split. This feels like a team that have been struggling, that are feeling the loss streak that they are on. Remember, they were 2-0. They're now 2-3. 3 series in a row, 2 of them versus BLG. And 1 obviously versus LGD as well. And now struggling against RNG, against the team that is 0-5, against a team that WE, by all accounts, should be a heavy favorite against. They are against the ropes.
I think even that series versus LGD, that was a real upset for me at the time. Yeah. Maybe it's not based on current form. Maybe WE have lost a little bit of that special something that they had. I feel like they're less disciplined than they were, and that's a bad flash.
Oh boy, that's a doozy. That is not what you want to see, not at a time like this. And RNG, we talked about maybe they could get a win on the board. This would be their second game win of the split if they can get this first one. And maybe they could turn it into their first series. They haven't finished the job just yet, but Juice does get another tier 2 on the bottom side of the map as WE continue to send 5 people here to contest mid and try and contest this Baron. That'll be Drake too.
Yeah, and, you know, 3 Mountain Dragons for RNG now. This is only getting worse. You're getting to the point where, you know, Ming, just with the Celestial opposition and a bunch of HP and, like, 1 defensive item coming in is going to be really tanky. Yes, FoFo and Abel are getting to the point where they're beyond 3 items now, and the Vamp Scepters are starting to come in from them. So they are getting to the point where they can get a little bit of sustain. But it's still going to be a big, big damage amount that needs to come through from them, and the Baron started again.
Mark and Heng have to try and check this one. Wayward has TP available. He's in the bot side right now, but the Baron might just go down here. TP into the pit. Heng gets into the pit as well. Bit of poke coming out from Abel. The tanks are tankier. Equalizer goes in. Abel on the back line. Shocks against everyone, but WE, that's their engage. It seems like it's gone, and RNG is still full health. Wayward stuck in the pit now, all out to find one. There's a pick onto Ming. Suddenly 4 remain from RNG. WE, they make it out, but at the end of the day, RNG got the Baron.
They get the Baron and they lose 1. I feel like that fight could have gone disastrously for WE. I think they're lucky to get out with no one dying themselves, especially with the HP bar of Heng as he makes it out of the pit. So WE, they have to now deal with all of that poke in a siege setup beyond this. WE, they try and dive in for a big engage, but you can just see again, the damage is really hard to get in place. Kasante's not there to be an immediate frontline. Abel does one of his classic Abel things after this, but it's after the Baron's already gone down, and they're trying to win a fight against the head of things. Abel can't stick around for long enough to get big damage down, and at the end of the day, it is just that 1 kill for the entire Baron.
Way makes up for his smite on the blue buff by grabbing himself a Baron late on in the game. Huge performance here for RNG. It feels like they are calling WE's bluff. They are confident to go for these fights. They are confident in these kind of stalemate situations where WE can't find a way to actually force a team fight because they just have more damage. Juice now in another 1v1 with Wayward. Wayward's down to half HP, and Way's on the way as well. Wayward has stepped miles out of position here. He's just going to be taken down for free.
Juice has just knocked this guy for 6. Wayward's not got to play this game. Yes, you expect that the Kasante loses in the early lane and can get some value later. At least FoFo gets something on the other side of the map in terms of an inner turret, but that feels like it is pittance compared to what RNG can maybe get in mid and top lane. They're pushing in towards here. They already got the kill onto one of the key frontline members from WE, and they still have the equalizer available. It's not like Juice even had to use that if he wants to teleport and use that, which is exactly what he could do now.
And that's going to be the base broken open. That is RNG knocking on the door. 15 seconds on Wayward. It's not enough for RNG. They want more. They want to play this safer. Remember, this would be their second game win of the split. I can understand playing it slow and being careful.
Heng just uses ultimate as well in mid lane. Tangyuan had to flash, and it's another failed engage from the Sejuani. WE, they are really not stepping up to meet the engage very well. Yeah. Feels like they've just been so discoordinated compared to what we know they can be.
Heng takes an equalizer. Remember that time when we said Nidalee will fall off compared to Sejuani late game? With ults like these, even Nidalee looks relevant late game. Spears continuously landing. Mark goes in, last ditch engage for WE. Can they find the damage? RNG health bar's low. Juice has to turn golden. Wayward still tanking on the front line. Can the AD carries pop off? Can they finally find the fight? Abel gets 2 as FoFo tries to finish the job. Huanfeng the target, and he pops him. Wait, and FoFo in a 1v1 now. And suddenly the game explodes. It's open wide, and RNG sent packing.
Finally, WE find a fight. It's not even a clean fight though. What, 4 for 4? One messenger left to tell the story to their respective teams left alive. RNG don't end the game, and WE do get themselves some important breathing room now. The ult flashed away in mid lane from Tangyuan, but that does mean that Sejuani's value is very, very much dropped beyond this point. We're looking now to just see where the big damage can be put through. The equalizer not onto the backline. That's another kind of moment down for RNG. After this point, knowing that the Corki has got no flash, such an important moment for Mark to get the Corki off the table. One of the big damage threats is gone. But one of the big things about RNG, with the gold lead and with the Zhonya's buying so much time too, the extra damage becomes really apparent. It is very, very close to being a one fight for WE, but the extra damage from RNG just about bails them out, despite the fact they don't have their Corki alive.
FoFo just breaks Huanfeng's ankles at the end of the play as well. Flashes away from the queue, gets his bomb on. The ult followed by one final auto. Beautiful, little bit of Tristana play there from FoFo. And WE, both Abel and FoFo kind of popping off a bit in that fight. It keeps them in the game. Nice. They're still 5k down. And Drake has just spawned. This is Soul for RNG. A TP comes in from Wayward behind enemy lines. Tangyuan's already halfway through the Drake, though. Vision now in the pit. They're just going to burst this. They're not even there in time. WE, they lose the Soul as RNG waltz out away from the plate. I'm not sure Wayward can stop them escaping either. RNG corralled onto the bottom side of the map, but they don't even have to flee.
RNG just get there first, they bursted down. WE, they have been out macroed in this game by RNG. Not something I expected to say coming into today. And now with 4 Mountain Dragons on that Soul, so hard to cut through anyone on this team. Yeah, they managed to break down the front line in that last play. Can they do that again? It's another missed ult.
Heng trying to find the angle, but does not find anything. FoFo now just going to try and trade in the mid lane. He pushes towards an inhibitor. Equalizer comes down. It will be at best a trade as the bot inhib goes down for RNG. The mid inhib can go down. That is 3 inhibitors for RNG if they can finish this middle one. Wayward finds the Q3. Mark actually goes for the engage, and the fight begins. WE looking to turn things. The knock-up on Abel buys a little bit of time for RNG, but that's all of the engage gone at this point. Wayward gets the knockback. Tangyuan joins the play as well as Abel has to back away. Wayward will go down on the back line. 4 members strong for RNG. They've got a 4v3 and a chance to end the game.
Oh, and FoFo couldn't really get himself into the fight, was too far away and teleports back to the Nexus turret. He's not there to break the ankles of Huanfeng again, and now I think you're right with the man in Salt with Bloodthirsty Shields. They think they can take it.
Heng's going to go down surely. Abel does survive, and Heng actually survives as well. RNG's health bars are low. Huanfeng wants to finish the job, diving forward for Heng and forces a flash. But WE still survive. 3 inhibs. FoFo couldn't even trade 1. But RNG just can't quite finish the job.
Oh, RNG, we're starting to see one of the issues with this team, and there have been a few in the group stage. Biggest one has been they can't close games. They had themselves, in their first series of the summer split, a really big late game advantage, and they couldn't quite close it off. In one of their last games in their last series here in group stage, they would really like to buck that trend. WE, they might have to have themselves a smite steal on the Baron. That's if they choose to contest it at all. I think WE take a look towards it. All of those items arrayed inside, and they think, yeah, maybe not.
RNG on the cusp here of their second win here in the group stage. WE are fighting tooth and nail to stay in this game, has to be said.
And big thing about this one is that they just don't have the Tristana at the start of this. Currently, the carries from WE have more gold than those of RNG. The Tristana and the Zeri are ahead of the Ezreal and the Corki, but if your Tristana's not there, it doesn't matter. Now the Mountain Soul, again, gold gets a little bit skew if it's not quite exactly what you would like, what you would expect on the table from it. Now we have Baron up, 3 inhibs, WE, they have some wave clear.
Yeah.
Do they have enough for all of this against a Siege comp with all the poke as well?
I don't know. Let's find out. The Zeri plus a Tristana, it's pretty much the best wave clear you could get from AD carries. We'll see if they can hold the fort here as FoFo moves down to the bot side to deal with the supers. RNG trying to move in top.
Sivir is in shambles in the fact that you don't talk about Sivir in terms of wave clear. The 500 CS win condition, maybe that can carry W to a game like this.
I'm sure that can't be true. I'm sure I'm going to be corrected on that one. Here we go, ults in, knockback. Ming the target, but he survives. Now depth charge onto Wayward. Heng escaping on the top side of the play. But he will walk out with his life, and he's got a Warmux to heal back up after the play as well. WE somehow are still in this game. They are desperately holding on to their
Wayward,
Nexus towers.
Like, Wayward is still really tanky, despite being so far behind individually. This is why you can sometimes pick the K'Sante into the Rumble. Is it enough to use Defender's Advantage where you can go back and heal from the fountain and last out this siege?
Surely RNG don't lose this. Mark goes to be engaged again. Ming on the front line here. Way trying to get some damage down, but Way might just fall himself. Able chasing, all out comes through, and Wayward finds the kill. 4v3 now in favor of WE. It's flipped around from the previous play. Wayward over the wall. Can he get out with his life though? Juice is there to try and close the gap. Wayward has to try and survive. He has teleport available. If he can get out of vision, he might just be able to get away with it.
He's
onto
going.
the Nexus towers. Wayward with the great escape.
Oh, smooth criminal moves to Wayward. Gets in, gets out, teleport back to base. K'Sante makes it home safe. Welcome back, soldier. WE, they survive the siege. The Nexus stands. The towers outside of it also survive. And a lot of it just comes through from these carries from WE, finally being able to get late game damage. Tangyuan has to Valkyrie out early. Abel, FoFo, they get to gun down a little bit more than their opposing members. And Wayward also manages to get himself out to a bit more safety there as well. Somehow makes it out after a heroic journey away from his base.
And remember, Group A is on the line for WE, and this is the performance. We had a struggling early game. We had a mid game where RNG continuously found macro advantages, but now in the late game, the Zeri is full build, the Tristana is full build, the tanks are there, they're frontline, they're invincible. WE are holding on to this game, but Elder is up in 25 seconds, and that, I fear, is where this will all be decided.
Folks, we're getting to a point where we might get Zephyrs built by the AD carries. You can actually get to that point now. You can upgrade your boots late game. I think FoFo has decided to sell them off entirely and go, yeah, I want a GA instead. But, I mean, Abel, he should be getting close to the point now where he can buy up even the extra AD carry item. Is that going to be enough? That amount of gold for the Elder Dragon spawning now. Can the big carries of WE find that pocket?
Juice and Tangyuan have gone topside. They want to try and trade perhaps, or maybe TP into the play, but the Elder is down to 10k, and Way is not going to be able to get into the pit. RNG, this is a terrible goal. You had to contest. That's Elder for WE. They're going to be able to go for resets here. They're trying to split the fight. RNG want to deny recalls, but they're just going to try and end the game in the meantime. The solo laners are in the base. The recalls have not come through just yet. FoFo goes back and tries to defend, but he's on his own, and the Nexus is going to fall. WE, they needed to retreat. They needed to defend, and instead, Tangyuan breaks the Nexus, and RNG find their game.
Oh, it's the classic Dragon for Nexus trade. No teleports left for WE's solo laners, which means there is no quick way back to base. And RNG, they take a game off of Team WE. I don't think I thought they would do it. I think they were such big underdogs. And with their record in this group stage, it felt like it was such a long shot for them, but they're starting up a little bit of an upset.
That was something else. I genuinely thought WE were going to hold on there. I genuinely thought they might actually turn that one around. With 3 inhibs down, they held on for so long. But RNG, great solo lane play at the end there. Great call to finish the game. We're going to jump to a break. We're going to need one after that. And then we'll head into game 2 and find out if WE have it in them, or if RNG